All right, Carol, the debt ceiling fight.
Debt
What is
ceiling.
this? Does this have anything to do with the economy? Everyone knows they're going to raise the freaking debt ceiling again. They're not going to cut any significant amount of spending. This is the least dramatic drama I've ever seen in my entire life. But what does any of this mean to me?
Well, as Congress is a place where they perform political theater and legally launder money, this whole scenario gives them an opportunity to get into both of those. As you noted, in the short term, we are not going to default on our debts. The reality is that there are plenty of other ways they could lease out some of the things that they own. They could sell off assets, other things to pay for debt payments should they have to do it. But the bigger issue, and this is why this is so frustrating, is the debt ceiling's a fight over how we're financing previous overspending. It is not addressing the overspending. So you're looking at, something going on the freak show, on the side of the circus instead of what's happening at the main event. And the reality is, if we don't stop spending, it's just going to be an issue. And tying this back to what we just talked about with the Fed, the Fed holding down interest rates let the government rack up debt and not have to pay, very much on that debt at all. As these rates are going up, it's becoming more and more expensive. It's time for the government to go, okay, it's our turn now. And we understand that we got away with some stuff, but we should be changing course here because the current trajectory we're on is unsustainable. But of course, there's nothing that looks like fiscal responsibility. And unfortunately, when the GOP gets involved, there's only posturing. There's no actual real action. So it's a really big issue and challenge. And at the end of the day, it's only going to impact our purchasing power and our ability to have the same quality of life going forward that we've had in the past.
Carol, you're right. Republicans love to spout this line about spending as soon as Democrats take over, but they do the same thing. Okay, so Democrats aren't going to stop spending, and Republicans aren't going to stop spending, even though they'll lie about it. So we're driving off the cliff. I mean, you say
Right.
Unsustainable. It ain't going to be sustained. We're going to go off the cliff. What does that mean?
That's a good question. There are lots of people who are sort of pontificating about what, the next sort of financial world order or financial reset looks like. Certainly, it's not going to allow the U.S. to be the same power center that it is, whether that means new blocks align, or some other country potentially emerges as a power. At the end of the day, it just means that we're going to have less ability to purchase things with our dollars, and we're going to have a lower quality of life. We may have less access to critical things that we need in our lives, whether that be medicines or foods or whatever. I mean, it really takes us out of that pole position of helping to drive the world economy. And the benefit of doing that is making our lives better. So it is not a good development. And, the problem with the driving off the cliff, if you've watched any of the Wile E. Coyote cartoons in the past, is that you just don't know where that is. So you just keep going and go, oh, I've got space. But once you're over that edge, the coyote drops down, and then that becomes the problem. And, without somebody showing some level of restraint, because I do think this is fixable, but without showing some level of restraint, if it continues on this trajectory, we're talking about things like they're projecting over the next several decades, $60 trillion just in interest expense on the debt. That's 3 times the current GDP. The only way that happens is everything gets inflated so much that your dollar becomes worthless. And as I'm fond of saying, and may or may not be related to things I'm writing about, they're projecting it. You will own nothing.
Support the First TV today and get instant access to exclusive specials like Who is Ron DeSantis, the history of FBI scandals, and America's worst presidents. Visit thefirsttv.com/support or download the First TV app to become a supporter and start watching today.